the Azimio candidate, then you could see why the math does not add up.
Right. Let me just circle back to Dr. Green here and ask you, you see now they're saying we'll run the demonstrations concurrently with the bipartisan talks as well as it's, don't you think this is beating the purpose of the whole bipartisan talk that they were seeking? Now you run the demonstrations and then we have bipartisan talks which are happening. How does it take away from the gravity of what they want with the bipartisan talks, these demonstrations?
Debal, one of the greatest things that we've been calling for is an opportunity for these team members to engage. And already they are in that process. What we are hearing in the process is noise in one direction, wants and what needs to be done based on what the individuals or the institutions that they represent want. This is very healthy. The fact that there is some talk, the fact that there is some engagement, it's very interesting for me. And this is a process of negotiation that is going on. And we must appreciate. We should not imagine that everything has gone to the wild or to the dogs. And as they get into this position, Debal, we need to appreciate that there is a sequence of things that we all need to focus. We need to look at Kenya today and the Kenya that we need to have. We need to look at 20, we need to look at 30 years to come. The only other thing is that politicians will always look at the next election. And therefore, everything is overwhelmed by what must be done within the shortest time possible. When I talk about the sequence of things, the sequence of what needs to be placed in terms of order, I imagine 3 areas. The first thing, we need to organize Kenya. Organize Kenya in terms of our economic side of things, organize Kenya in terms of our social space, organize Kenya in terms of our political space. We are almost losing the opportunity of Vision 2030, which would have helped us to organize our country in the best way possible, looking at what is very, very important. As the talks continue, it's an issue of demands and sacrifice. What does Kenya demand us to do? What are we able to sacrifice? These 2 words become very, very important at the level of organizing our country. We have opportunities that can change the lives and the livelihoods of our people. It is not possible that a country with 47 counties, out of these 29 counties are in the arid and semi-arid regions. You always say 23, but they go up to about 29. That means almost 40% or more of our country, people who are suffering. How can we organize our country with access to market, access to things that we must be able to do? This is a focus that we must take advantage of at a time like this. The second thing, Deval, we must focus on empowering Kenya. Empowerment happens when there is trust. Lack of trust throws away any opportunity for one to feel empowered, for one to be able to feel comfortable in their own country and contribute in things that must be able to be done. What are these things that we must be able to do? What are we doing on a daily basis that's going to help us to get to the next level as a country and to be an economic power? The third one is the issue of security. Security happens when there are boundaries. Kenya has a boundary. When you're bringing up a child, the boundary is a yes and a no at the right point when it is required. What are these things that we are doing to ensure that law and order is in place, following and adherence to our constitution? These are the basics that we must be able to look at. And we, fortunately, must look at the future. And I believe it is not something that is just going to happen today. It must be looked at where are we sending our money? How are we empowering the counties? Are they getting access to funding in one way or another? Unfortunately, in African countries, you find that money is actually kept away from distribution because it might be used to hit the same government that is sharing the same. But can you imagine a future where money is not coming from the central kitty, but a future where it is the counties that are contributing a small percentage to the national county, the national government, so that we can be able to progress? These are the things that we now need to start looking at. We must not lose sight of what can help and can build this country to great heights at the expense of small things. There is space for everyone. There is a role for every person. What are we allowing that to happen? And you must not feel and make the president feel that he's threatened in his position. There is a role for everyone. There is a role for the opposition that must be given empowerment to the best level. There is a role of the government that must be able to lead, and we can coexist because Kenya is bigger than every situation that we have at the moment.
Adherence or adherence to the law, as you say, but